This section is 4.4. I can graph quadratics in standard form. Standard form is when it's written ax squared plus bx plus c, where a cannot be a 0, so you have to have x squared within your equation. We are just going to make tables to graph, which you can do on all of the previous notes if you'd like. You can just make tables. So I'm going to plug in a 1, parenthesis 1 squared minus 8, parenthesis 1 plus 17 is 10. Won't fit on my graph. Now I'm going to go over and plug in a 2, so I just scroll through and replace the 1 with a 2. Is it 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put a dot. Scroll through, put a 3. 3 is at 2. Then I'm going to plug in a 4. Is at 1. Plug in a 5. And then if I want to, rather than plugging in, I can match my parabola because they're the same on both sides. Example 58, I would make a table. I'm going to plug numbers in. I'm going to start with -4, parenthesis -4, square it, plus 2 times -4 plus 5 is 13. That won't fit on my graph. I'm going to try a -3. That would give me 8. Then I'm going to try a -2. Is that 5? -1 is that 4? And then I'm going to plug in a 0. And then I can match my right side to make my parabola. Example 59, I make a table. I'm going to plug in a 1, so I do parenthesis 1 squared minus 4 parenthesis 1 equals -3. Dot. If you don't want to make a table, you don't have to. You could just go through and plug in a 2, which would be -4. Plug in a 3, which would be -3. Plug in a 4, 0, which means this point would be right there. To graph. 60, you would do the same thing. Plug in, I'm going to start with -4 plus 6 times -4 plus 11 is 3. Then I'm going to plug in a -3. And it's at 2. -2, plugging in that. Is at 3. There's my parabola. I can fill in my extra points to graph the U. 61, when I graph it, I have to watch out for the negative, so I'm going to plug in a 1 first. I would type negative parenthesis 1 squared. Notice it's on the outside. 1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 13 is -8. Now I'm going to plug in a 2. It's -5. Now I'm going to scroll through and plug in a 3. negative 4, plug in 4, squared, plus 6 times 4, minus 13, negative 5. My parabola opens down this time, which makes sense because there's a negative in the front. 62, I'm going to plug in a negative 6, so I do negative 1 divided by 2 parenthesis negative 6 squared minus 4 parenthesis negative 6 minus 12. Negative 6 down 6. Scroll through, I'm going to plug in a 5, which would be down 4.5. Negative 4 plugged in is down 4. Negative 3 is down 4.5, and then I can match my other point. There you go. That makes sense because it goes down 1/2 over 1. I type in negative 2 parenthesis, I'm going to start with negative 6 squared minus 12 times negative 6 minus 19. Too far off my graph, so I'm going to try 5. 5 down 9. Now I'm going to try 4. 3. And 2. And then I can match my last point rather than entering it in. On number 64, I'm going to start with negative 4. I'm just going to start in the middle section and see what happens. So negative 2 parenthesis negative 4 squared plus 16 times negative 4 minus 36. Ooh, that's way out. Okay. I'm going to try negative 1. That's even more. Let's try negative 6. Nope. Those aren't working, they're way off the graph. Let's try a 1 squared plus 16 times 1 minus 36. Negative 22, we're getting better. 2 is that negative 12, that one fits. 3 is that negative 6. 4 is that negative 4. 5, let's hope that 5 will make it loop back down. And it does, so that I can mirror to get the parabola. The next section will be review problems. When it says find the product, you are multiplying. 3 times 4 is 12r squared minus 3r plus 16r minus 4. Combine the two like terms together. 12r squared plus 13r minus 4 is your solution. 5 times 8, 40x squared minus 5x plus, oh, that's a minus 24x plus 3. combine those two together, 40x squared minus 29x plus 3. 5 times 5 is 25v squared plus 20v minus 5v minus 4. Those two combined together will make a positive 15v minus 4. N times 7 is 7n squared plus 5n plus 7n plus 5. Combine the two like terms. And those are done. When you have a minus sign, that means you change. This will become a minus 5x. That will become a plus x squared. 3 plus 1, negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2x squared, and the 5x's would cancel out. Change the sign, so negative 2x squared, negative 3x. That would make negative 1x squared, 5, 6, 7, 8, negative 8x. When there's a plus sign, you don't change the signs. Positive 4x minus 3x squared, it stays the same. 4 minus 3 is 1. 2 plus 4 is positive 6. N squared plus 2n, that means I leave it a positive 4n minus 5n squared. That makes negative 4n squareds plus 6n. On 73 it says factor or quadratic formula. A multiples of 18 would be 3 times 6, and then you would want a positive and a negative. Then when you solve it, a equals 3, a equals negative 6. Factor this one. 3 times 1, positive, negative. K equals negative 3. K equals positive 1. M. Multiples of 8 would be 2 times 4, negative, positive to add up to negative 2. M equals negative 2. M equals positive 4. You can do this one two different ways. If you notice, all of them divide by 2. Then you can factor x, both minus 1 so that they make a negative 2 together. If you don't like that way, you could also factor it as multiples. Multiples will be 2 times 1, 2 times 1, 2x, 1x, 2, 1, and then just check. That makes a 2x. 2x to get negative 4, they'd both be negatives. And then you would say 2x minus 2 equals 0, 1x minus 1 equals 0, and solve them. And you get the same answer.